Soar Without Limits Enterprises presents the Triple E Podcast, a show dedicated to empowering women to elevate, expand, and explore their mindsets. I am your host, Monique Pearson, best-selling author, mindset coach, international speaker, and travelologist. Are you ready to transform your life? Join us monthly for inspiring stories and actionable tips so that you can soar without limits. Well, hello. I would like to welcome you all to the Triple E Podcast. I am your host, Monique Pearson, and we are here to help you elevate, expand, and explore your mindset with our wonderful guests. And as you know, we come with it every single month, and this month will be no exception. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to who we have on the show with us this month. We have Miss Chelaé Cummings, who is the embodiment of a purposeful life pivot. After building a successful career in advertising, marketing, and communications as an award winning creative director, a brand strategist, and a corporate trainer, as well as a curriculum developer for some of the world's most iconic brands, she has stepped into a new chapter that is defined by faith, freedom, and intentional service. Her former life in corporate creativity laid the foundation, but her calling led her to something much greater. Today, she's a writer, a publisher, and she's a sought after speaker and the CEO of the Blue Pen, a full service creative and strategic content agency that helps entrepreneurs and minority owned businesses to bring their visions to life through structure, clarity, and brand execution. She also hosts the Love Over Again podcast, where she teaches women of faith how to love through a renewed mindset rooted in the 15 principles of 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. Shalea is your favorite, keep it real sister friend, the one who pray with you. She'll hype you up and she'll loving you push you off that ledge into your purpose. Originally from Dayton, Ohio, raised in North Carolina, and now proudly planted in Los Angeles, California, she is fueled by faith, passion, and a heart for serving humanity. Her mission is to speak wisdom in every room, to every soul, and on every platform. She strives to live by the words of her late mentor, Dr. Maya Angelou. People will forget what you said, what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So, without further ado, we are going to give a warm welcome and welcome to the stage, Miss Chelaé. Hey, Chelaé, how are you this evening, girl?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Triple E Podcast audience. How are you, Monique?
Yes. We are excited and we are so thankful to have you here on the platform with us and to just get into this conversation because I know it's going to be juicy. So thank you for coming and we are so happy to have you here.
I am happy to be here, and thank you for having me. I'm honored.
So let's get into it, Shalane, because you know we have 30 minutes. So I want to make sure we get as much that we can for the people. So
Okay.
after just reading your bio and just seeing how expansive your career and your journey has been from a creative director to a CEO, what internal shift had to happen for you to move from corporate success to being purpose driven in serving as a leader? What what was that shift? Let's get a little insight into that.
That's a very good question. So, I refer to myself as what we call a jumper and a leaper. Okay. And
Mm,
so, there are two different ways to kind of look at that. To answer your question specifically, what created that shift was
Mm-hmm.
me feeling as though I had maximized my level of creativity and wanting to be in spaces that did not recognize my genius, that did not honor it,
Mm-hmm.
did not they wanted me at the table, but my voice wasn't actually heard and seen. And after a while, I know a lot of women can identify with that because my career spans 20 years ago, and the same microaggressions and things that we have going on now were
Mm-hmm.
even more there. And being the only Black woman in the room performing at a high level, of course I deserved to be there. Of course I could perform well. Of course all of that was great. But then also when it came down to understanding in the advertising and marketing industry what it looked like to serve other cultures, that was not
Mm-hmm.
a conversation that I often was brought in for. But when it was time to make the final decisions, I was not adhered to. And so what that did was it took a little toll on me. All of us have a little toll that we get tired of our corporate jobs. We feel like we want to do something more. And so simply for me, it was just me making the decision. Okay, today we switch. And today
Mm-hmm.
we activate the other gifts that we have. Our corporate gifts and our educational gifts are not our spiritual gifts and our natural gifts. And so, what we are going to do is we are going to form our own company with all of the education and the understanding and the experience that we have. And we are going to pivot into serving those audiences that were not readily served in these industries. And so that's really what caused me to pivot. And I'll never forget when my mentor said to me, not my Angela, but my business mentor, he said, I don't think that it's going to work for you to work with all Black businesses. And I said, well, we're going to find out. And boy, was he wrong because
Mm-hmm.
working with our people, I began to get a different set of purpose for myself because I understood that my knowledge for business and entrepreneurship was not of access to some of the audiences that I was serving.
Mm-hmm.
And so it shifted my purpose to where someone may have came to me for a creative design. Maybe they wanted a website or they wanted a brand package or they wanted something, like that, an actual deliverable that you could see. What I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that we needed to have a different conversation about, did you structure your business right? Did you do any market research to figure out whether or not it was really a real business? Who are you going to serve? Do we know that? How are you going to structure yourself? What is your written visual plan for this here business? And so that's what brought me into shifting my company into being more organizational, strategic, and execution for small businesses and minority businesses.
You better speak on it there, Chelae. But something that you said, and even when you had it in your bio that stood out and jumped to me, and it may have for others as well. You mentioned that you identify as jumper or leaper. I want you to go a little bit deeper and break that down for us, what that means and the distinction as it pertains to growth and expansion with those terms.
Absolutely. So, whether we recognize it or not, each of us have the opportunity to do one or the other or both at the same time. And I will not lie, it is very scary. But my personality is I will try anything new for the education, for the experience. Okay. So I'm a little risque, as the people say, but I also know that you can develop these skills as well. So a lot of people, when we talking about whether it's career or life, you get at
Mm-hmm.
this point where it's like, I want something different, but I'm not sure if I can. I need something different because I can't do this anymore. I know I can do something different, but I don't have the confidence to do so. All of that is real, all of that is relevant, but it don't matter. And here's why. Because leaping is when you can physically see the danger in front of you and you choose to leap anyway. Now leap, in the scripture it says leap is a form of faith. right? So
Mm-hmm.
when you can see what it is that you can see, although we say that you can't see things in faith, you are still activating a part of faith that is visual, where you can see. Just think of a frog. That frog sees that water lily pad or that rock is over there, and what does it do? It believes that when it makes its leap, that it's going to make it and it's going to hold it, correct? So it
Mm-hmm.
does it, right? Because it's the environment that they know, but it's also the uncertainty that they have not done yet. So that
Mm-hmm.
is what happens when you want to leap into something, and people do it all the time. They just don't identify it, that that is your faith being activated, because sometimes that faith is activated through exhaustion. But when you begin to look at your life and you say, hey, what is it, God, that I really am here to do? You begin to look at leaping as a part of the journey, and everything that you've done before is the connected piece that gets you to the next part. And so what you do is you just do a little bit at a time. And then you may sit there on that water lily and you may be like, okay, I need a little bit more time. I got to still move forward, but I can't do it yet. And so then you make another leap, right? And that could be
Mm-hmm.
anything. Now, the difference between a leaper and a jumper, okay? A jumper is somebody who's just going to dive in. Okay. They are literally exactly the word. I'm just going to jump into it. I don't care what the risks are. And the reason why they have the ability to jump is because they are specific visionaries. They are the type of people who can navigate challenges, who understand that the road ahead is never going to be easy, but it is one that I have acquired enough skill. I have acquired enough understanding. I have acquired enough confidence. I've acquired enough resolution, solving, whatever it is. All the things that you've gone through are parts of your toolbox that then make you say, I have absolutely nothing to lose. So let me just jump on in it and let's see how we go. A jumper
Mm-hmm.
is somebody who can wade the water. They know how to surf the things that are uncertain. They know how to say, okay, here's a solution. I got to keep paddling. I got to keep going, even though that water is trying to push me over. And by the time you figure out which one you are, a leaper or a jumper, it won't even matter, because you are a forward mover. We don't go backwards. And I know sometimes it's hard, for us to see ourselves somewhere else. That's why activating those specific principles, to just take a leap of faith or
Mm-hmm.
just jump right in, right? You'll figure it out as you go, because we have the intelligence that God created us with.
Mm-mm-mm. That was good. I love that analogy that you used about the frog and the lily pad and just going off. That was real good, Chelae. I'm sure that somebody took a lot from that. I love that analogy. I'm just sitting in that myself because I can be honest and transparent and feel as if that is where I'm at right now. And I'm sure there are several of our listeners who are afraid of taking that next leap because one, whether it be comfort, whether it be the uncomfortable zone, whether it be for stability, but I loved how you shared that far as it gets to a point where sometimes you may need to be propelled in order to get to your next calling. So I appreciate you
Absolutely.
sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
So you
Now, don't
help your
y'all steal my leap and jump. Don't y'all go out here stealing my leapers and jumpers.
oh, you better go on and get that trademark.
It's already taken care of. You know, one thing about me, and this is another part of business, that when businesses came to me, I wanted to make sure that they understood the protection of a trademark, right?
Mm,
You don't own anything until you own it legally, right? And so
yep,
we won't go into the trademark conversation, but for those who have these genius ideas and gifts and things that God has given you, but you want to go ahead and you want to put them out in the public, it's not for you not to do it, but it is
right.
also your responsibility for you to protect it and to own it, because he says, I give you the power to get wealth. Well, if you don't protect that power that you have to get that wealth, then anyone can have access to it at any time.
Yep, and take it just like they made it for themselves. So
Yes, they
drop
can.
that science. So you help your clients to build those purpose-driven brands. How do you define purpose, and how do you help them to uncover theirs?
I define purpose as evolution. right?
Mm,
Some people believe or may understand purpose to be a destination that you get to. Okay, I know my purpose is to do this. And then that's all you focus on. But I believe that part of purpose is being able to pivot, which is why I said I am a purposeful pivoter, because God may use you in a different way. It may
mm,
not be the exact comprehension of what you believe your purpose is. It may be that thought and that belief that He's put inside of you that gets
mm,
you moving because you're not moving forward, right? And then as you go along your journey, then you find out, oh, I'm really supposed to be doing this. So it's almost like I see purpose as a form of revelation, that as you connect and communicate with your higher self, with what God has for you, time. Now, we can also develop a purpose by sharpening our tools and our skills. If you become an excellent speaker, then guess what? You're going to enjoy it. You know that you have a good message, everything like that. And that can be confused with what purpose is. Purpose is halting and hearing what God has you to do in the moment.
mm. So, you know, I've heard and seen several people who say, I just am not sure what my purpose is. What would you share with them in order to get enlightened as to what that may be for
I would say that you're in the right place, right? You don't, if we knew, if, okay, I think that people confuse purpose and passion.
them? Mm-hmm.
So, purpose, as I said, is one of those things that I believe is revealed as you go. You can have a passion for something and you can have a gift to do something. That doesn't mean that that is your purpose. So, for those people who are saying, I don't even know if I'm good at anything or I have skills at anything, start to ask the people around you, hey, what do you think I'm good at? Or, hey, what do I do most often that you notice that is consistently me? Right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to start to inquire when you don't know. Searching
Mm,
alone doesn't get you to where you need to be. That's why we have mentors. That's why we have coaches. That's why we have friends. Hopefully, you got good friends that will tell you the truth. Like, I'm the friend. I will pray with you. I will cheer you on. I will push you off the ledge, but I will hurt your feelings as well.
with
Because,
love, I know, Chelae. With love, I know.
well, sometimes, a little while ago, it might not have been so lovely, but now we have evolved. Okay. Yes, it is a little more lovely, but being a person who can help people reach their purpose, it requires
Mm-hmm.
you to listen for the areas of insecurity that they have. And then
Mm,
what you're supposed to do when you are someone who knows that your job is to help other people move forward is you're supposed to reaffirm and reassure, and you're supposed to help remove those barriers that they have within their mind about themselves by helping them recognize those things that they are capable of. And if you don't have anyone in your life that is able to do that or speak life into you, then it is then your job, that if you are really serious about finding your purpose and your passion, that you change your circle and that
mm,
you start to seek out other ways to become better. We only get better by what we do, not by what's done to us, and we sit in it. We get better by moving past it and taking whatever time it needs. If it take a year, a month, 2 weeks, 10 years, doesn't matter. Time moves forward and so do you. Aging
mm,
happens to us all, so you can't really go back. So it's a choice to choose yourself to get you where you need to go. And we
mm,
have to start choosing ourselves, not under the guise of this current climate of, well, my peace is being bothered, or, and just dismissing and erasing people, right? The cancel culture. What we have
right.
to do as far as choosing ourselves is when you set your boundaries, right? That's a word right now, setting boundaries and all of
Mm-hmm.
that. Boundaries are not for other people. Boundaries are for you. So it is actually your word that you say, this is the capacity that I can give or the capacity that I can take. And I am going to hold to that capacity because I love myself enough.
Mm. Bars. Yeah, I noticed Pastor Cummings in the building too.
Oh God.
He ain't put that in the bio. Oh, yeah.
You're funny.
Ah,
I am a
so
minister though, so
yeah.
that is our job, without having to be scriptural all the time. I know that my gift is to connect with you on your human level because that's what God made us. He made us from the soul. He made us as human. We are not perfect and that's okay. I have a saying that I tell people all the time, be beautifully human. And what does that mean? That means you flawed. That means we
Mhm.
all are. That means you are a person who understands that it is beautiful to be human and not have to be responsible for being a superpower or a super person. But you
Mm,
also take accountability for any errors or mistakes or how you treat people, how you steward your time, how you steward your relationships, your words, whatever it is. That's what being beautifully human is. And then taking the approach to always be a learner. Don't get down that a mistake was made.
right.
Find a solution or find out what made you do it or what's the difference between now and then. And once we start to involve ourselves in our journey, in our human journey, I think we'll find a little more grace for ourselves and a little more love for ourselves. You'll find that peace that you're looking for, and you'll become a person that is okay with who they are because you know you're doing the work to move forward.
Mm. That's why I said I think some of our best lessons are learned from our mistakes, and sometimes we're making those mistakes so that others may not have them. If we just also change our perspective as to how we look at things, I definitely think that'll make a difference as well.
Absolutely.
Chime in on what you just spoke to. So, when you're working with some of your clients who happen to be entrepreneurs, when it comes to branding and visibility, how do you help guide those, especially the newer ones who are new to that world? Help guide them through that.
One of the things I'll say is my brand clients are far and few in between now
Okay.
because I kind of pivoted into publishing and writing books, right?
Hmm.
So you were asking me earlier, what is your purpose? Like I told you, I had a gift. I had a gift since I was a kid to write. If I'd have known I was going to be a writer, I probably would have started that career a lot earlier and I would have skipped all the other careers that I had, right? But everything that I did actually brought me and made me stronger in this particular space. So when I
Mm,
look at people who have stories to tell, all of my brand experience and strategy then shifts and purposes over to you want to be an author. All right, not a problem. Well, becoming an author is a business, and a lot of people don't see it that way. And so, what do you need to do in order to structure that business? Okay, first, I make every client get an LLC. They don't want to, but you're getting one anyway because we need to figure out how you're going to fund your money, right? You plan
mm,
to take sales, right? You plan to take money, right? Okay, and
mm,
this is the same whether it is for publishing or whether it's for business. We need to know what your structure and your entity is going to be for us to bring in resources. Okay.
mm,
Next thing we have to look at is target audiences. Okay. Who are we really trying to speak to and is the product or the service that we are intending to provide, does it match that group of people? And if it
mhm,
doesn't, we need to find who it does match, or you need to pivot to what is actually in demand right now in the market.
right.
So we go through a series of discovery. I call them discovery calls. And then we
Mhm,
go to what we call our implementation phase. So now we have discovered what it is that we want to do. Now we're going to implement by putting a plan together. Then we're going to develop it, right? We're going to test and we're going to put things out into the market and we're going to see how they're working. We're going to keep a watch over it to see if it's measuring where it needs to measure. And then
mm,
once we do, we're going to launch. And fully launch means you may have a soft launch, you may have few activations, you may have a full blown whatever it is your business is, whether it's author or an actual business. but you need to let people know. And while you're doing that, your social strategy, your engagement, all of those things that people don't think about, it's exhausting because it's a lot of work, right? All
Girl,
these
you just
talk
list that list just keep growing and growing.
all the things that I'm talking about are multiple people's jobs. So
Mm-hmm.
times when I have to have this conversation with clients, they are in what I call the solopreneur phase. That means
Got it.
you're only doing it. Like you're responsible for getting the clients, billing the clients, finding the clients, doing the work. You still got a job. Okay? And
Mm-hmm.
that's okay because it's your first leap, right? Solopreneur. And then you get to entrepreneur, but everybody uses the word entrepreneur as though they are an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur when you are responsible for the income of other people.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have a different burden on you where it's like, okay, I got to get enough business and I have enough business that I can employ other people to come and help me do this work. So now I'm no
Right.
longer a solopreneur, but it is a different level of stress, right?
Mm.
And
Payroll.
then payroll, depending on what benefits you offer. And most companies, when they're first starting, can't do that. Payroll is what it is. But you got to know how to put your jobs out. You got to know how to do all these different things. So when you're starting a business, I found out, me specifically, personally, yes, I have a specific discipline. But because I serve a specific audience, I cannot serve you by not giving you the roadmap for all the things that need to be done. Whether I help you execute them or not, you're going to get them, right?
I
That
heard
you're
that.
and you can use them or you can't. And most of the time, people are very appreciative that they're
Mm-hmm.
getting more from me than just what you came to get. Because Maya Angelou taught me that I need to be of service. You cannot have the voice and the gift that you are and not do right by God's people. And we're not
Mm.
talking about religion or church or anything like that. We're talking about
Right.
his making, his humanity. So if you see that they are going in the wrong direction, if you are a leader or a woman of purpose, it is your job to ensure that you speak up. And sometimes I just be quiet because that may not be the point, but the wisdom is recognizing and knowing it. So that's how I take all of my customers, no matter what genre they are in, through the journey of discovery. And you asked me a question earlier. How do I
Mm-hmm.
help people find their purpose? It is through that business journey or that course of questions that they start to say, "Oh, I never thought of it that way." Or, "Oh, that's really good." Or, "Wow, I can do that." Oh, and so that's the seed that's being planted, the patience that you
Mm-hmm.
people when they don't know, and then the patience that you have to walk them through the process.
So what just dropped in my spirit, there is more than just a discovery call going on. There's an uncovering that takes place when you're working and walking hand in hand with these clients. So now that you done dropped all the science of how that process works, somebody is intrigued, Chelae, and wants to know, how can I hop on and get a part of this? How do they connect with you, and what, share your information, how those who would be interested in learning more and possibly working with you may be able to do so.
Not a problem. I would love to help more people. My website is thebluepen.com, and it's no E on the word blue. So TheBlupen.com. Anything personally to me is always going to be I am Chelae, and that's IAMCHELAE. And if you're interested as a woman of faith to hear more about my Love Over Again podcast, then you just go to Love Over Again podcast everywhere.
Well, now that you brought it up, because that's what I was leading to next, what is the Love Over podcast and what audience will be drawn to it? Who are you speaking to? Give us a synopsis of what Love Over Again podcast is all about.
Well, surprisingly, it was about my journey initially. One day God told me, I said, I need a husband, right? He said, "What
Mm-hmm.
you need a husband for?" And I was like, "Because who wants to be alone, God? Like, come on, God, don't talk to me like that. That's our relationship." And so he was like, "Well, you don't know how to love." I said, "What you mean I don't know how to love?" He said, "You don't know how to love." I said, "Yes, I do." What he says, "What is love?" I said, "Well, the men, they want you to cook, they want you to clean, they want you to do, their little things that they want. And pretty much it's real simple and be quiet. I can do all of those things, right?" He said that is not love. So what I want you to do is I want you to get into 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. And I want you to stay there every step of the way for all 15 of those principles until I tell you to come up out of it. And I was
Mm.
motivated to do it, Monique, because I thought I was getting a husband at the end of this. That didn't happen. Okay. But what did
Yeah.
happen? Yeah, right? But what
Mhm.
did happen was the shifting and the shaping of my understanding that we as women do have a
Mm.
hard time of love. It's the one thing we want. It's the one thing we're always talking about. It's the one thing we're saying we're lacking right now in this particular culture and climate. We have all these voices between unwise women, and then you have some wise women, but it's not louder than the unwise women talking, and everything is just out of order. And so I was intending to keep it to myself. I did a good work. It made me a better human. It made me be a better friend, a better daughter, have better relationships with people, because I had a different understanding that it's not just patience, it's not just kindness, it's keeping no records of wrongs. That's our
Mm.
biggest thing. It's always trusting, always protecting, and it's not easy to do. None of those things are easy to do. And I will not lie, I still work on them daily. So it's a process. But then the Lord said, the daughters of God are out of order. I said, well, what you want me to do about it? I want you to get over there and I want you to tell them about love and do it over again. So I'm speaking to women who are frustrated with the
Mm.
climate of love, whether it is self love, whether you are a single woman, a married woman, or a mother, right?
Mm.
We are talking to Gen X for the most part. And
Mhm.
I'm hoping that because I am a Gen Xer, so I can't really speak to too many younger, but I can give them the wisdom from being
Right.
raised by a boomer and having that type of wisdom and being able to experience where we are now and pass that down to the millennials and Gen X. And I noticed that as I started to talk about this quietly amongst individual women, that I was just talking to all the women, because even
Mm.
married women were frustrated with their husbands. They may have been married for all these years.
Mhm.
But that frustration, what I want women to really come to listen for is that God calls us lovely. And lovely is a spirit and it's a disposition of calmness and peace. We are the trajectory of God's love here manifested on earth. Not saying
Mm.
that we don't have it and don't know it, but we are the physical embodiment and we are the ones who change the situation. We change the temperature and we control that temperature, not for it to be used as a weapon, but for it to be used as a source of change and emotional power that not only feeds us to receive what it is that we want, but it calms the environments that we're in. And that's a hard space to be in if you don't know that love is a complete action verb and it has all these different things that you have to do in order to manifest it until its full purpose, that it never fails.
Mm. Girl, where can we listen to the show? Because I know that some people's like, "Ooh, girl, I want to hear more about that." So where can they tune in?
All right, so it's going to be fully launching in June. But you can go onto YouTube and look up Love Over Again podcast. And then also on Instagram, it's Love Over Again podcast. I would love for you women to come and join this conversation because I want it to be engaging. I want it to be honest and transparent. And I want
Mhm.
to answer the questions for the women who have them. I am the friend that most of the friends call for wise words. So I also know that I would probably be able to give some to other women if they can understand that I'm coming to you as a woman, not as a character, as someone
Mhm.
who has done this work, not as an authority, but as a guide. I'm coming to you because God really has need of us in this season right now. And in order for things to go well in the earth, he needs women to understand that our levels of frustration are, we're the only ones mad about stuff. These men don't care nothing about our little feelings. Okay.
Yeah,
But
they
they
be moving us along.
not, they don't care. They don't care. They don't care nothing. But here's the thing also. God made you wise. He made you lovely. He made you full of purpose and peace. And as we journey life and we give that out in wrong spaces, it then changes the character and nature of who we originally could have been or would have been as women. And so now, because God has need of us, this is a conversation that I believe for those who will listen will not only get healing, but they will feel restoration and they will begin to understand the beauty of being a woman outside of just the femininity, but just the purpose for why we are here. And then for
Mm,
those who may say, oh, you too traditional, you trying to take us back. Feminism has already taken us back because guess what? We're working too hard now because we want to be free from something that was never a chain over us.
mm, 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 mm. Well, I will be tuning in, and I'm sure that the Triple E listeners will as well. We
Yes.
have run out of time, but we have had a blast with you dropping all those gems that you have dropped with us, Chelae. We have enjoyed speaking with you. So thankful that you took the time out your schedule to come hang out with us on the Triple E podcast this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it was definitely a pleasure. So I want y'all, if y'all have not joined me by subscribing and you still shacking up visiting, go on and hit that subscription button so that you will not miss out on any of the fabulous and guests just like you have had seen here with Miss Shalea that will be coming for on the Triple E podcast in the future. So we enjoyed helping you to elevate, expand, and explore your mindset. And we look forward to you joining us next month with our next awesome guest. Now have a good evening.